And welcome back to the Press Start Podcast. I'm your host Vic, aka Nimister Never Chillin', and this is episode number 14. And I'm joined this week by my co-host Roger.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
So Roger, what you been playing, man?
So I've been playing a little bit of Valorant this week. I got into Wasteland 3 again. I started playing that with my friend Thor, and then finally beat a boss that we were kind of stuck on in WoW. Hopefully we'll see a little longer WoW here before Blizzard has any issues. And then, about it. We picked up Deep Rock Galactic and the Ascent this week as well to try, just for some of us to pick up and play. How about you, Vic? What have you been playing this week?
This week I actually finished up beating Outriders. So that was really fun. I enjoyed the story, the ending, and stuff like that. So hopefully I'll have that game review up here soon. I would probably just give a sneak peek, probably a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 game. It was a lot of fun, and it probably is even more fun if I played it with a group of friends. Like, that game is a co-op game, co-op shooter and stuff like that, and I played it completely solo. So it was just like, yeah, it was fun, but it was probably one of those games that would have been better if I played with other people.
Okay.
But been playing a lot of Valorant again, obviously, as the community saw. Got another ace, got that uploaded, so that was exciting. Wasn't as exciting as the first one, but it was still nonetheless exciting. A lot of shit talking I seen from it.
Yeah.
But I started the Outer Worlds finally got that up and coming, because I definitely want to beat it before the second one comes out in the coming years. So sometimes I get a lot of games that disappear. So I started that one, and of course, like you said, we started the Ascent, which is really fun. We'll dive into that here soon. And what was the other game you said we started? The mining game?
Oh, Deep Rock Galactic.
Deep Rock Galactic. That is a very interesting game. A game that I probably would not have downloaded if it was me just going through Game Pass and going, oh, cool, I'm going to download this game. It probably would have been a game I missed. So, nonetheless, it looks cool. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a game that I'm not playing by myself ever. It'll be a game that I definitely play with friends. But other than that, man, let's get into our topics this week. We're going to start off with some of the recent games that just came out. We're going to start off with the aforementioned Ascent. Roger, what's your take on the Ascent so far?
All right, so you've heard my opinion, but and some of our viewers have also heard my opinion watching my stream or watching the stream here this past week. I think the game, it looks good. It plays all right. The issue I have with it is it feels like there's not enough to draw you in. The story is kind of non-existent for the most part, unless you really want to just sit there and listen. But if you're sitting there and listening, all of a sudden the dialogue replays. I've had it replay 4 times in a row. He's like, hey guys, and I'm like, just finish your line of dialogue, please just finish your line of dialogue. So I honestly think the game has a bunch of issues. We came into a game-breaking bug, which forced us to quit the game and reload our save file. The game has some issues. It's super playable. I like it for what it is as the style of game it is, but I think it feels a little too go here, do this, and it gets very repetitive very quickly, I feel. None of the enemies really feel new or different or have anything fascinating about them. I feel like, if you're actually doing all the content in the game, you're going to over-level too quickly, and then at that point, you're just one-shotting guys. And it feels like if you stick straight to the story, you'll stay on level. If you do any side quests, you get over-leveled, and if you and then you get stuck with constantly spawning enemies, so people tunnel vision, and then you don't move on. I think there's a lot of issues with the game, and I don't think there's enough to really, if I wasn't playing this with a bunch of friends who want to beat the game, I probably would have dropped it after the first day. After the first 2 hours, I'd have been like, it's not that great.
Right.
How
Yeah,
about you, Vic?
so the Ascent has been one of those games since its announcement. It's been a game that I've been following and been super
Hmm.
excited for because the art style and the way this game really looks is just it's very appealing. It's mind blowing. Like the game looks crisp. Like we all
Hmm.
said it when that first intro loaded up. We were like, "Wow, this it looks really really crisp. It looks really good." And then
Yeah.
like you said, but like playing through the game, it's fun. It's pretty chaotic at sometimes I think, but it's definitely manageable. I feel as if we have been leveling up way too quickly, like you said. Um, the missions, the story is where it's losing me because like one of our one of our players actually bailed because he was like, "Man, this is just too all over the place for me," and I can
Yeah.
see where he's coming from, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just not
like
his jam.
right. So like, I hope the game progressively gets better because I played games where like the beginning of the game is very slow and the story's trash, and then it really picks up where you get to the meat of the story. So hopefully we get that, but nonetheless, it's a game that I want to beat. This game isn't going to take us too long to beat, so it's not like it's a huge game. But it's sad to
Hmm.
see, man, like this cyberpunk era that games are trying to come out with and showcase have been struggling nonstop, like with the story. Like there's so much content and lore and just so much story to tell, but they're failing at
Yeah.
it, and it's just like
I
I don't get it.
I think the issue at hand is a lot of games want to make a world, and they start off trying to make a world but not actually make a game. Because like if you want to make a world, like you want to have iterations or replayability or more games in a series, you want to build a universe of lore so that you can build upon it. You want to have things that, oh, that's a throwback to this, or oh, that character, he did this. Like for example, Wasteland is a game that has 3 iterations now, and in Wasteland 3 they're always doing throwbacks to content from Wasteland 1 or 2. And if you didn't play Wasteland 1 or 2, there's things you're missing out on, but it's not bad because they'll explain it. If you don't know, you'll be like, I don't know who you are, and they'll be like, oh, I'm this person, I did this, these are my things that I've done, and you're like, whoa, that's cool. But with games like this is the first iteration. The Ascent is the first game, and the problem with it is they're like, we want to do a lot. We want to make lore. We want to be funny. We want to do things like. Honestly, I thought the game tried to be funny, but it like the only one really laughing seemed to have been you most of the time. Like I barely was like, the joke fell flat a lot, and it just wasn't enjoyable. They were like, ah, that was a joke, and you're like, no, it wasn't. You're
I
trying to have
was
a serious undertone, and then they say something stupid, and you're like, I just don't get me wrong though. I think they do a lot of good
that's flex.
things. Yeah, laser. And I think the issue at hand is they've done really well with combat with like they made it playable, but the problem is the progression feels weird. They made the cutscenes look great. They made the characters look great, but they didn't breathe life into them. The characters themselves, as I've said before, dialogue is a huge part of this. Music, dialogue, story, art, it all goes together. And if one fails, but the others are great, it detracts from everything else because the one thing that's good is the only thing propping it up. And that's the problem I feel right now. I look at the characters and they seem kind of flat. There's only one character we're dealing with. We start the game and they don't even really give us a reason why we're there other than we're working for this company and here's what we're doing. You're like, how did I end up here? And you don't even
Right.
know because they didn't really go into explaining it well. There wasn't like an intro thing. It was just like a paragraph. You came down an elevator, you start shooting some dudes. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And like
Right.
they're like, I didn't even follow half of what he said in the beginning because he's like, oh, go here, do this, and you're like, okay. And then like you're going through this area and you're like, oh, this is cool, and then all of a sudden you go into a whole new area and the game just completely changes aesthetics. Instead of being inside the machine, you're kind of inside a city now, and it went from like, being inside a post-apocalyptic kind of machine here, and now you're a speedrunner inside of it feels like you're just a runner out of cyberpunk kind of thing, just running through the streets, shooting whoever you want and doing what you want.
Right, yeah, because that's another thing too, where it was kind of making me mad with shooting the civilians and stuff like that. And it's just like we couldn't really tell if there was any repercussions. Like we thought maybe there would be police that show up, or like you get like
Yeah.
a rating, like a 1 out of 5 star, like GTA and stuff like that. But at this point, looking back at it now, I don't think it is. I think we were just in the wrong area at the wrong level, and we were just getting fucked up.
And that's the other thing. Like the enemies, the level progression on enemies, like you walked the wrong way once and you just got shot by a level 19 dude and you're level 3. And you're like, how did I end up here? All I did was follow a marker for a level 2 quest and they started killing me. I was following a level 2 quest. The quest was marked as level 2 and I'm dying. Like, it should have been marked for the level it requires to get to the place you need to go. And they were like, oh, you have to be level 2. Well, they didn't tell you have to complete the story up to this point to unlock an elevator to get to this quest that doesn't require you to be any higher than level 2.
Yeah, it's definitely all over the place. So hopefully they can update it and fix it or whatever. We're in a time right now where games are coming out unfinished and glitchy and buggy and stuff like that. So hopefully they decide to go back and release updates and fixes
and exactly. With this game, we got into the one room, we start killing a bunch of dudes, and they're like, this is a game-breaking bug that is known. Like, it was a few days old, and we got it the first time we walked into the room. The game just stopped.
Yep.
They stopped spawning enemies. You couldn't leave the room. You had to quit the game and reload it. And there's not even a load button in the game, or like a load last checkpoint. Which what do you mean? Like, there should always be a reload button or anything like that in most of these games nowadays, because with glitches like this, if you're going to force us into an environment and then you're going to have a game-breaking bug, how do we keep playing?
Exactly. Well, let's move on to another game that came out this week. I think that's on a much better tone, is Death Door. This is Xbox and PC exclusive right now, and it's a very interesting game. It's a game made by Active Nerve. It's an indie game. It's a role playing game. It's an action adventure game as well.
Yeah.
And like you're traveling as like this crow, and with like a sword that almost resembles a lightsaber. That's how I look at it. It looks pretty cool. And like you're defeating these bad guys and collecting their souls. It almost has like that Cuphead kind of story to it, where you're going around collecting.
Maybe Hollow Knight too. It kind of rings me of like an isometric Hollow Knight kind of a vibe, because you're in an animal kingdom. You're an animal trying to survive in this animal world that's now been made to feel like a human world, like some kind of medieval society, or something to that effect. And I thought it looked really cool. I think it looks like a really interesting game. But I don't know if I want to bank another 30 hours into an isometric, fighting game right now. There's quite a few of them, and I think it follows, it's got stiff contenders against this year for isometric games. Like Hades is a big one still this year that's just bursting online. We've got we've got the Ascent, so it's a single player one, which brings a little bit more to it, and I hear it's got really good reviews right now. Says the story's great, the combat's great. So if you're looking for a new game, it's kind of like Hollow Knight-esque, but it's top-down isometric and not a side scroller, give it a try. It looks really good, and the bosses look unique, fun. The gameplay looks very smooth for a fighting game. I think it has a lot of potential.
Right, and this game's not bad either. I think it's $20. So it's not like you're shelling out $60. So it looks like you're getting a lot of content, a lot of value for $20. And the game,
it's a complete, fully to you. It's a fully launched, ready to play game from start to finish. No like early access. $20.
Exactly. And this game's already in talks for Game of the Year. It's 1st of August today, but it's in Game of the Year talks already. So this will be pretty cool to see if we're still talking about this game in December-January time frame. Phil, it's called Death's Door. I'll put it here in chat. Oh, it's not typing. But it's a game that just came out, I think on the 29th or 27th. Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, no problem.
But man, it looks really good. It's published by Devolver Digital, which we kind of talked about them a little bit a few weeks back in June for the E3 conference and stuff like that. And this is a game that slid under the radar during E3 time, honestly. And here we are. Yeah. So, I mean, nonetheless, though, another game that just came out, which is interesting. It's like not a new game, per se, but it's called The Forgotten City. And this was originally a mod for Skyrim. And now it's full-blown its own game. And it's doing really well. This is a game. It's also in the talks of Game of the Year. It's reviewing really well. A lot of people are playing it. There's over 3 million people have played the original mod. And now that this full-blown game have came out, so it's really exciting to see this. Roger, how does this appeal to you at all?
Not knowing that it was a Skyrim mod before you had told me like 5 minutes before we started today, I see it. I completely see it. It plays like Skyrim. You know, one of the main weapons is a bow, which most people like to play in Skyrim. I think it's a really interesting game because it's a it's a game where you're supposed to continue to die and try again until you figure out the truth, what's going on. And I think it's a really interesting, fascinating place to put your character into, a mythological one of the Roman cities that fell under a curse and was wiped off the face of the earth. And I think that's awesome. You know, if only one person in the city commits a sin, the entire city has to be purged. So you have to figure out who's committing these sins. And I think that's really cool. And every time you die, you start again. And you're like, I've been here before. And the guy's like, no, I've never met you. And you're like, no, I just met you like an hour or two ago. And he's like, no, you didn't. You're like, okay, all right, let's do this. And then I love that idea of being able to play it over and over again. Oh, I've died. Okay, here we go. And it's not like Dark Souls where you die and you go again, and the bosses know you've died and come back again. This is no, the game reloops and you start from beginning. It's kind of like Andy Sandberg's movie off of Hulu, Paradise Springs, I think it was. You know, he keeps dying at the end of he keeps dying, come back, and like that's the premise of the game, just like the movie. And I think it has a lot of cool potential to me. I might give it a go. From what I see here, it looks relatively cheap. It's only $22 on $22.50 on Steam right now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. So I just want to read this part here from their the website from the game, basically kind of explaining what the game kind of is. You travel 2,000 years into the past. You relive the final days of the cursed Roman city, where if one person sins, everyone dies. And it says that combat is optional, but violence will only get you so far. But only by questioning an intertwined community of the colorful characters, cleverly exploiting the time loop, and making difficult moral choices can hope to solve this epic mystery. Here your decisions matter. The fate of the city is in your hands. I think this is pretty cool where like this kind of gives me like that Mass Effect feel to it where like your choices matter and they'll carry on throughout the story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't fall flat on that idea either, because there's been a lot of games where like, whoa, your decisions really matter in the game, but in grand scheme of things they never did.
Yeah.
So this would be interesting to check out.
Yeah, and that's one thing that always gets me. They're like, your choices matter, and I'm like, you know, a lot of games say this, but then in the end, it doesn't feel like it. Like I've made choices in games where they just gloss over it, and you're like, I murdered this guy, and you have nothing to say, and they're like, don't know who that is, and you're like, you literally talked about him an hour ago. Like, I think that's one of the craziest things to me, and I hope this game actively, your choices between each playthrough carry over. I hope it's not just like your choices in one moment affect the next moment, and then you can replay. I think it'd be interesting, you start the game, you make some bad choices, you replay a new life, and the next life, the choices carry over. I think that would be really crazy to me. So I'm definitely interested to check this out, but, you know, I have some other games right now on the watch, and maybe this would be one of the things I would pick up soon. Because I just beat another, you know, single-player game recently, and I have maybe some room for it. But another game that just came out here, Omno, I believe it's pronounced Omno.
Yes, yeah, it's called Omno. Cool.
It is. What's crazy about this game right now is this game was made by a solo developer all by himself. It's a fully 3D game. You know, the graphics are just smooth colors. They're just really, really vibrant, full of life. I think it looks like an awesome game. It's an exploration game. You know, you're trying to unravel the mystery. So I think it'd be really interesting to see. What about you, Vic? What do you have on no?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to know that this game was produced or created by a single person. Like, this game looks beautiful. The gameplay looks amazing. The puzzles look like they're going to be somewhat challenging. Like, they could be different and stuff like that. Like, the traversal in the game looks pretty cool, and it's actually a game I just downloaded on my Xbox the other day because I was like, oh cool, this looks pretty cool. I'm gonna add it to my backlog. I'm gonna put it up front of my backlog. This could, because it's a smaller game obviously, so it's not like a game I have to invest 30-60 hours into. This could be a game I jump in at the end of the night. I want to play 30 minutes to an hour of just a game. Let me hop in. So I'm definitely going to check it out. It's been on my radar since it was announced a while ago. But nonetheless, it looks cool. It's full of puzzles, secrets, obstacles, and stuff like that. The world itself looks cool and different. It's on this like different planet and stuff. So nonetheless, it looks cool. It actually looks kind of similar to a game that I just started too, Planet Alpha, which is another game I brought up last episode. But nonetheless, it looks really cool. I'm excited to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into our other gaming news this week. We're going to start off here with some big news here. Xbox Series X and S is the fastest selling Microsoft console of all time. If this is not exciting, I don't know what is. Granted, yes, the PlayStation 5 has sold 10 million units. Xbox has sold about 6 million units so far. But that's exciting given the fact that both of these consoles are succeeding. No matter how many consoles you sell, and during a pandemic, during a time where the production is cut in half, during a time where we have a semiconductor shortage, which we're going to dive into a little bit later on in the episode, to see these numbers are incredible, and they're only going to keep getting better. You imagine like when we get to a time where we talked about before, when these consoles are more accessible, easier to buy, those numbers are going to keep going up. And then with the value of Game Pass, where we talk about every week, it's just going to make people want to buy Xbox. And once Xbox starts releasing these, open up the floodgates to their game studios games that are coming out, which they just started with the first one. The first one just came out, and that was Flight Simulator for Xbox. Granted, yes, it came out on PC already, but it's an Xbox exclusive, of course. And the thing is, it's a next-gen exclusive.
Yeah. It's not on the old Xbox One. It is on the Xbox X and S.
It would probably brick the old one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's broken computers before. Flight Simulator is known for pushing it to the limit.
Right. So yeah, this is super exciting. What's your take on this, Roger?
I think it's really fascinating to find that they're doing so well with their sales, especially when they're in such a tough market right now. With Xbox actually having the sales they do. It only makes sense, though, because, let's be honest here, yes, it's the fastest selling, but also, at the same time, it is, gaming is only getting bigger, so it would only make sense to me. I would be worried if it wasn't the fastest selling Microsoft console, because at this point, gaming is so big, and Microsoft is trying to grow, so it's good news, but it doesn't feel like it's, crazy news. It just feels like normal news. It's something, it's what we expected to see. So we're seeing what we're supposed to be seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I'm super excited though. Being a huge Microsoft fan, Xbox fan, ever since hopping on board with the 360, which was a super a console that sold really well, and then transitioning to the Xbox One, which completely flopped in the beginning, but then did their turnaround, and once they restructured the company itself, because once they put Phil Spencer in charge, that's when things turned around. And then to see the launch of this new system, giving people options too, like you can buy the Series X for $500 and get the best of the best in console gaming, or you can get the Series S and go discless, all digital, 1440p, play whatever. It's the smallest console that Microsoft has ever created at $300. So it gave you different entry levels into it. And now with their whole cloud gaming and stuff, I mean, Microsoft and Xbox, they're only going to keep growing, keep getting better, and I'm excited because this is going to push gaming, not just Microsoft, not just Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to push the Nintendo and PlayStation and all developers.
I 100% agree, and I agree with that because Sony has grown stagnant. We know this. We've seen how badly the PS5's doing, how badly, they're selling a lot, but that's because their market's over twice as big. PlayStation has been in a rut for quite some time now. They aren't growing. They aren't innovating. They aren't doing anything new. And Microsoft just keeps pushing the label. That's what they do. So I think it's definitely with it growing and staying the way it is. We're not seeing stagnation. We're going to see the growth of industry in gaming because Microsoft's going to say grow or get out. And, as long as Microsoft continues to do what they're doing now, even if they grow and push other people out of the pond and become the biggest fish in the pond, they are still going to give what's good for gamers. I haven't felt like Microsoft has wronged anyone. I have never once felt like Microsoft has done bad by people other than maybe once on their, with the Xbox One. where it was kind of a really crappy launch. I feel
Yeah.
like the X and S, they had good reason to upgrade, good reason to release this new content. Like Xbox One felt like there wasn't much of a jump from 360 to One. It felt like, yeah, we got a little better graphics, but like, what did you give us? And it took a while for them to finally figure out what the console is supposed to do. The X and S, it knew what it was supposed to do. It did it, and now we're seeing, we're going to see a continual trend of improvements.
Right. Exactly. And I think the whole issue there with Microsoft with the Xbox One was when they were marketing the Xbox One, they named it the Xbox One because they wanted it to be
supposed to be all-in-one
entertainment system. So it was just like they were worried about TV this and movies that and not gaming. They weren't pushing gaming. Like I was buying this console for gaming, not because I wanted to watch movies and TV shows.
And
I
exactly
get what
right.
they were doing. They were trying to be innovational. They were trying to do something.
And don't get me wrong, they succeeded. Everyone we talked to on here, like all of our co-stars or like all of our guests that we've ever had, they're always like, "Oh yeah, I got my Xbox here on. It's my streaming device," and it's like, "Oh."
Then they said,
they
that's
a $300 streaming device. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, like it's funny because I have an Xbox Series X, the Xbox One S. My bad, because that's another topic for another day. My girlfriend has it, and what does she do? She don't game. She plays no games. She uses that to watch Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and whatever she wants to watch on there. That's her streaming device.
Yeah.
But
that's what it did, and I think that hurt Microsoft in the beginning, but it still sold. I think this console itself is meant to be a gaming console. It's supposed to push next gen. It's supposed to finally get consoles out of 60 frames. It's supposed to get us where we need to go with gaming, because PC has been doing this forever.
Right.
And consoles, we're in the PC world like, wow, this is awesome, and console gamers are like, this looks so great, and we're like, we saw that 10 years ago. That's 10-year-old technology. It is actually pushing consoles closer to where PCs are for cheaper gaming options.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, if you're on a budget, consoles are the way to go. They're awesome, and these are only getting better and catching up to PC more and more.
Right, yeah. I mean, the Series S, I actually want to get one for the house, too. I'm going to put that whether it's in my bedroom or in the living room or wherever I don't have my X at. Because, like, it's such a powerful device for $300, like 1440p. Like it'll run great. It can push 120 frames per second. It still puts out 1440p. Because at certain points, like 1440p and 4K is almost indistinguishable at times.
Yeah, you have to have a really big TV for it to start to matter, because at that point then, yes, you're getting better quality. Because when you're looking at, only so many pixels, your eye, you start to lose detail because it's so small, like a computer monitor. Unless you're getting a big-ass TV, you're not really gaining much a lot of times.
Exactly. But let's continue along the trend here with Microsoft. Halo Infinite. They just had their first technical preview that was just released out to the community and stuff like that. I've been seeing a lot of people play it online. Fellow podcasters, I've been watching them play and stuff like that, like Paris Lilly. And the game is looking really good. And the crazy part is, I want to use this example from Paris Lilly because I follow him on Twitter. He posted a picture because I remember following him, and he's talking about it like, is this game going to be able to rival in the younger generation? And he has younger kids that are like 12, 14 years old, and his sons and stuff are like that. Oh, Dad, we're not going to play Halo Infinite. It doesn't look that good. Halo's old and stuff like that. And he's been posting pictures, and he was like, yeah, these kids can't put the game down. Like, that is a great sign. That is something big to see the younger generation, because they already know that we're going to play it. The people who grew up with Halo are going to play it. I'm more worried about the younger generation. The younger generation probably makes up a vast majority of the game.
If the series wants to succeed, it needs to pull more people in.
Yeah, and I think this is huge. And with them coming out with these technical previews and then hopefully a beta here soon and stuff like that, they're trying to make this game good. They're trying to make sure that it's polished and ready to go at launch. Like maybe that year delay is actually going to be worth it. And I'm just hoping the story mode's good. I think Halo's multiplayer is iconic. It's been the same. There's no reason to change the formula in Halo.
Well, they did it so many times, and now look where we are. Everyone's got power-ups and other silly stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, Halo looks like the multiplayer though. It doesn't look too crazy on the power-ups. Like, yeah, you got that shield, but we've always had bubble shields. Even back to Halo 3 and stuff like that, and just like the new guns, like you're adding new guns, that changes up the gameplay of Halo and stuff like that too, and that like how to approach each gun situation and whatnot.
Okay.
So I mean, this looks exciting to see Halo coming out, and it's doing really well in its first technical.
Yeah,
because this is actually on a 1 month, a build that was built in 1 month apparently, that they're working on. So that's exciting to see that this game is doing that well in a build that like time wise that small.
Yeah, so one of the worst parts about this, though, if you didn't notice today in the news, turns out they accidentally let a bunch of the story mode files stick inside of the Halo Infinite technical preview, so people can data mine them, and they're asking people not to release spoilers. So be careful out there, guys. If you don't want spoilers for Halo Infinite, it's in the technical preview by accident, so be careful out there. You may get spoiled on the game. But no, I'm glad to hear accident. Well, yeah, maybe. So I'm definitely sad to hear that it might get spoiled for us. But at the same
I'm
time,
going to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever packaged that technical preview really fucked up. Like that's a big mistake. So but I'm definitely interested to see how well the game does, because we gave them a year. It looked pretty bad a year ago. It looked pretty bad, and honestly, they're changing the formula heavily. So let's hope that the formula change will actually work. You know, it's up in the air. We'll see. Especially with it being like an open exploration kind of game. You know, we did that once with ODST, and it worked great. We did that, you know, a little bit in Halo 3 on Halo 2 Halo 1. I'm sorry. Halo 1 had a mission where you could go any direction you wanted to a few times. So it's not new for Halo to give you choices where you want to go first, but you know, we've seen it in ODST. Let's hope it works again and on a bigger scale. Right,
because ODST was a lot of fun. I beat that game over and over.
Yeah,
just like the
ODST
rest of them.
It was an amazing game, and I really liked how the story worked, because they didn't throw the story in your face until you went to do a mission, and then you went back in time and did the mission back in time. So it was always an interesting way of handling the game, you know, jumping back and forth. I hope that, you know, without them having that same sort of gimmick that really worked, like being a detective. Let's hope that they actually do really well with this open world, and let's hope the multiplayer also continues to be good and not continue towards the trend like Call of Duty does, and let's keep adding new stuff.
Right, yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, let's on to our next topic here. This one, I know we didn't watch too much on, but some of the highlights from it. But Annapurna Interactive had its showcase the other day. We kind of missed out on this. I wish we would have watched it live. But a couple of games that we wanted to cover here. I'm just going to list them off real quick, and then we'll go into detail on them. Outer Wilds DLC. Then we had Storyteller and Solar Ash. Was there any other games that stood out to you that you would want to cover?
So for me, Stray was probably the coolest game they announced. I think that game itself it's an interesting premise. It's a new, unique kind of way of going about it, and I think it's a really interesting setting. The other thing is, I think Skin Deep was a game they mentioned. It looked really goofy, just beyond goofy, and I don't know. I think it felt like Gary's Mod to me, where it was just like the game is meant to be a joke at all times. Other than that, none of the other games, they all kind of felt like indie game style to me. You know, they don't feel like I feel like a lot of them are relying on a new or unique gimmick, or they're kind of an arcadey style classical game where it's hit or miss.
Right. I mean, Annapurna itself, like they're like a developer / publisher. So, but a lot of their games have been very unique, very different, and very story driven. And they've produced a lot of great games. And honestly, like, I actually completely forget that like they're part of the developing behind Outer Wilds, which is a game I've never gotten to. But it's exciting to see that they're continuing with their DLC called Echoes of the Eye. It comes out in late September. I think it's like the 28th. So that one looks pretty cool. Nonetheless, that's a game that I'll eventually dive into. It's an exploration game.
Yeah.
It was interesting because like that game came out just like around the same time that Outer Worlds came out, and that was really weird because like those games were getting interchangeable at one point. They were getting confused.
Yeah.
But the other games that I was talking about here, Solar Ash. Solar Ash looks really, really good. It's another game that drew me in, given with the art style. It's just certain art styles that really stand out to me. But
yeah,
because it's an action adventure game, fighting game, you're exploring and stuff like that. It looks like a lot of fun. It'll probably be like a quick story, probably like heavy in the story, so I'm excited for that one. But the other one that I was talking about here, with a Storyteller. Storyteller looks crazy different. Like this is a game that you'll be able to like basically like the story, like the name of the title, Storyteller. Like you are the storyteller.
Yeah.
Like you create your own twist with stories and with the characters and the setting and stuff like that. So anybody that's really creative will have a lot of fun with this game. And when this game was announced, it like blew up on Twitter. Like people were like, "Yo, this game looks really cool. It's different. Like it's unique because you're going to be able to tell your own story with their own look. The aesthetic that they have looks pretty cool and stuff like that. Did that stand out to you? Because I know you love telling stories because like you usually are.
No, to be honest, for me, the game didn't really strike me as anything interesting. It just looks like a kid's game to me. It looks like something to just give your kids and let them play with. For me, it didn't. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it had any challenge to it or anything like that. It just looks like a fun little sit down and just click and drag some stuff and a story happens. And I felt like it's not substantial enough for me.
Yeah, I can definitely.
I think it's a unique like, don't get me wrong, it's a video game, it's a game, but it's so unique and new. I think it will deter customers from it because it's kind of it's just a game. It's just a weird, different style of way of playing a game that I don't think many, if anyone, has ever really done, where it's just, click and drag and fill a storybook with stuff, and each time you can change the story around, but you have to match a title.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it'll like blow up, maybe it won't. But that game Stray definitely looks interesting because that's another game that blew up on Twitter. Like it became a meme instantly. They were like, "Oh, here goes the cats." Like they were just talking about the whole cat thing. Like the whole cats in gaming is just like very an interesting topic, especially as of lately. But any last thoughts on the Annapurna Interactive Showcase?
No, honestly, I'm excited for Stray itself. That is the game that's gonna blow up. Stray is going to be, I think, an amazing game because it looks more like a flushed out AAA game than these guys. These guys still feel like indie games that are relying on a gimmick to maybe potentially build a new market around. I think Stray goes back to your classic exploration fantasy game, and the graphics look beautiful. They look crisp, like actual, like you're walking around in a real world. It's kind of that sort of dark undertone you have of a modern, like, not horror, but it's not fully post-apocalyptic, but it's like a future world, like not dystopia. Like cyberpunk, dystopian world. And I think it's interesting as you're just one of the most innocent things in the world, just a cat trying to make do and live its life. And I think it's really interesting because it's a puzzle-solving game as well as just a really good story-driven game, it looks like.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
So, but I think as far as Annapurna goes, their showcase was interesting, but it wasn't enough really to make me want to go buy a bunch of their games.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But moving on here, talking about studios, a new studio just opened up. That's No Moon, named after the Star Wars quote.
Yes, I love it.
The developers from Last of Us, Call of Duty, God of War, and Destiny franchises have joined suit. Some of the people who have left those studios have joined this new studio called That's No Moon. So what are your thoughts on this, Victor?
Yeah, so according to the article that was released about it, they're going to be focusing on making story-driven single-player games, which I was surprised to hear that, given the studios that they're coming from. Granted, I mean, other than like Last of Us and God of War, but like Call of Duty and Destiny, they're known for shooters and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they can come together. I mean, granted, Call of Duty and Destiny both had, I think, pretty good stories. They weren't terrible, they weren't phenomenal or anything, but coming together with people from The Last of Us and God of War,
newer Call of Duty. Newer Call of Duty and Destiny, I don't think had as good of a story as maybe God of War or The Last of Us. And so, no, I'm definitely thinking this studio is going to do amazing things. Mm-hmm. If we get crisp gameplay, we get good story, and we get real, not just like I'm not sure how to put it. If we're not trying to push an envelope, but actually write a good story mm-hmm. that we think, just a genuinely enthralling story, I think this developer could be really good. Especially if they're making like shooting games or anything like that. Like Last of Us, it's a shooting game, but it's a story shooting game. Same with Call of Duty as a shooter game. God of War, depending on what you're playing. You can use a bow, you can throw axes and stuff like that. So, but you have this crisp fighting in God of War. You've got this, really good way of handling encounters that The Last of Us does. Like, mm-hmm. You're faced with an encounter, and how do you get from point A to point B while going through this map you have in front of you? I honestly feel as though there's a lot of good potential here, because these games have always been great games in my opinion. Not all Call of Duties, not all of Destiny, but to be honest, there's a lot there.
Right.
Destiny has been a deeper game. There's stuff out there for you. There's a story. There's underlying lore, and it's easy to follow. I like God of War. They did really good with story. They're one of the staples of what makes good action games. Like, you can't talk about PlayStation story action games without talking about God of War. So I think there's a lot of potential here to be had. And so, it'll be another year or two probably till we hear anything out of that studio. But I think we better keep a watch on it, because they may be one of the new big studios coming out here with good games.
Right, yeah, I 100% agree with that, because like there's so much talent that's going to be coming together, and like I can only imagine what they're going to be able to come up with. Like, what kind of game are we going to get? Is it going to be like a game in the future? Are we going to get a game in the past? Or is it just going to be more of a fantasy game? Like, it'll be interesting to see where this game goes. But there's so much potential, and I'm excited because I feel like we don't have enough of single player focused games anymore. It's all about live service and multiplayer and battle royale.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of it. I need more single player, like AAA, Quad A level games that are going to be appealing and fun to play and be successful.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's been a while. Like we're finally now coming into the resurgence of single player games being what they're supposed, like being a focal point. Like for example, I played Subnautica actually this past week and beat Below Zero, the second game in the series, all in a week. It's awesome. Single player games are the foundation of what gaming is meant to be. It's meant to be something that you can do, because like, if every game's a multiplayer game, then you have to have a community to play with, or you have to go into a community to play with. And when the community dies, what do you do with your game?
Right. There's nothing to do with it.
I mean, what do you do with Destiny without people? You lose half the game without other players.
Yeah, because with it being like a social game and always working together and stuff like that, there's no way.
You can play the story by yourself, but once you finish the story, you can't do any of the other content by yourself. You can't play player versus player. You can't do raids. You can't do dungeons by yourself. They're impossible. They are not built for one player. They're built for four. And so I think that is something that we're finding out recently, that developers are like, maybe single player games still need to stick around. And one thing I did notice with this is That's No Moon seems like it may be a lot of Sony talent coming towards potentially maybe Xbox in the future. Last of Us, God of War, they're typically PS4 or PS5 games, PS3, PS2. They're PlayStation games. Call of Duty has always been on PlayStation. Destiny was on PlayStation. These are people who know the PlayStation world and know the the target audience for PlayStation. What if this is the beginning of the move for single player games or story driven games to us?
Right, exactly. But moving on here though, with kind of going along the lines with Call of Duty Mobile has been released. They just had a recent big update and whatnot. They added like a new zombie mode and new multiplayer experience and stuff like that. And I just feel like they constantly update Call of Duty Mobile because I mean, granted, it's actually a big game. It's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, mobile game at this point. Anybody can pick it up. You can hook a controller up. Blah blah blah. But
yeah,
what gets me though is like I feel like they focus so much on Call of Duty Mobile and constantly give these good updates, and not realizing that Call of Duty console and the normal Call of Duty is dying. Like Warzone is dying. They're not focusing on getting rid of the cheaters, the hackers, updating the content, giving us new map updates. Like, and we are back. Sorry about that with the technical difficulties here. Go ahead, talk, Roger. I just wasn't sure if we're
all right. So with Call of Duty Mobile, you were having a rant here about how Call of Duty is dying on console and PC. Yeah. So what? That's the problem. You are buying into a developer who does not care about the consumer. You know, your experiences with PC and console. But the problem is, the money is in mobile. They don't care about you. Activision, they don't care. They don't fucking care about the player. We've been over this. They're Activision Blizzard now. Mm-hmm. They don't fucking care about you. Okay? Activision cares about making money. And money can only be made with cash shops now in their mind. And that's a big thing. Like, Blizzard's all about their cash shop. Activision has, you know, their battle passes, their cash shops, buying skins. Look at the development that just goes into skins for Modern Warfare or for Black Ops or for, you know, Warzone. You know, we're dealing with the fact that Call of Duty Mobile and the mobile market is unfortunately where the money is. What's the largest country in the world? Let me just ask you this. What is the largest country in the world?
China.
Who does Activision and Blizzard blow more than anyone else?
Right, yes.
Wait,
I get it.
China. Yes, they open their mouth, unhinge their jaw, and they suck China off just so that they can make more money. And what is China's number one gaming industry?
Mobile.
We've come full circle in the argument, in my argument here. Yes. So the problem at hand is Activision Blizzard cares about China and Chinese markets. That's where they're going to get their money. Okay? So if Call of Duty Mobile is the only thing they're putting all these cool updates into, that's how they make their money. That's literally the only way they're going to make their money, is going in and putting the money in, putting the content where they can pull the most money out of. So remember, exactly, Laser is exactly right. Look at Diablo Mobile, for example. That was targeted not for us, but for China. And remember how upset they got that we just wouldn't accept a mobile game as the next Diablo? Don't you have phones? The meme has still lived on to this day in many iterations. Right. So I think the issue at hand is they don't care about you. They don't care about me. And the problem at hand is, if Warzone isn't good, if Call of Duty isn't good, stop buying it. Stop buying it unless there's quality in it. Like, I only bought Cold War for zombies. When zombies is shit, I'm done. Yep. That's it.
Pretty much.
Warzone, I'm only playing it while it's good. And to be honest, I stopped playing it because it's not fun anymore.
Nope, they don't care about, and there's just too much bullshit in that game.
Yeah, everyone's sweaty, and you're not guaranteed to get into a lobby that not everyone's sweaty or not everyone is a hacker, or you've got all these issues going on. The content isn't moving. They take good content out and only leave you with shit. Like, look, they moved the satellites out of the game in 2 weeks. It was gone.
Right, and that was such a cool.
That was so cool, but it's gone. Now what do we have? The same game. Nothing new. They left Nakatomi Plaza, but like,
okay. Nobody likes going there anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing. Like, the game needs to be spiced up, and they don't care about it because they've already made their money off. The mobile's where it's at this point. They're gonna put more developers into mobile games because that's where the market is. China is one of the biggest countries in the world, and they spend one of the most per capita on gaming in the mobile market. They can make billions of dollars off of Chinese mobile markets.
Yep, for sure.
So that's my argument on this. They don't care. They don't care anymore about console. They'll get your money every time they release a new Call of Duty game. So that's it to them. They release a Call of Duty game, shit or not, you buy it because you're a fanboy, and then they sell you another piece of garbage because you buy it, you're a fanboy.
Yep. That's exactly how it works. We're just caught in that endless loop. And it also sucks too is that there's no other competitors. There's no other competition in the market that's going to take me away or anything like that. Granted, yeah, we had Battlefield come in and back out and stuff like that, but like
that's what we need to be fixating on as a market is the competition. Halo Infinite. We gotta hope that the multiplayer is not
fun.
Not Halo 5. Let's hope it's not Halo 5 all over again, because let's be honest, Halo 5 they said it did good, but it's nowhere near Halo 3. It's not Halo 3 or Halo 4 numbers anymore. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like they say we did good, but you're not dealing with the numbers you used to have. Halo 3 was huge, Halo 4 was huge. Halo Master Chief Collection is still pretty big. Halo 5, there's not much market there. I don't think Halo 5 has a big market right now. And so that's dead. Call of Duty's the only game out there, and the only one close to it is probably like Valorant and a few others like it, and they're a completely different style of game.
Right.
They're not Call of Duty. Battlefield has been floundering. All these games are floundering, so Call of Duty can get by with the bare minimum.
Exactly. So hopefully the market gets better. And hopefully we don't keep moving down that Battle Royale market either, because like I want the 6v6 gunfight, like focus on that, the original shooter concept, because that is what makes the game fun. I could care less if there's 30,000 Battle Royale games out there on the market. I'm only going to play one. I'm only going to focus on one. It's not like, I'm playing Fortnite today. I'm playing Apex tonight. I'm going to play Call of Duty tomorrow night. Like, no. If I'm playing one Battle Royale, I usually stick to that one Battle Royale for a while. Because, there's no reason to bounce back and forth at all. Period. Otherwise, you're going to just get demolished because you never get in the flow of things.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. There is a market right now, and everyone's trying to do the Battle Royale. It's exactly right.
Well, I'm tired of it.
And honestly, most people are. Most people are looking for new innovation or back to the formula that worked for many, 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 many years. Hell, I played Black Desert Online, and that had a Battle Royale at some point.
Yeah, Forza has a Battle Royale. It's a racing game. How the fuck do you have a Battle Royale in there? Because everybody wants a Battle Royale. No matter what game it is, you're getting a Battle Royale. You'd be fucking Flight Simulator, and there's probably a Battle Royale for it. But, let's move on here before we go down a rabbit hole we don't want to. But, so we got another game that has floundered very terribly. Maybe this will be the time that it changes. It turns around. Probably not. But Marvel Avengers War for Wakanda, the Black Panther update that's coming out. The release date has been announced, and it's set for August 17th. It adds a load of new single-player content, a new multiplayer content and stuff like that. Will this be the content to bring the community back? Will this be the content to turn that game around? Or is it they're releasing all the content they've already promised just so they live up to it and then they move on? What's your thoughts? I think you muted me, or muted your mic.
I did, because I had to call. I feel as though why are we even talking about this game? I feel like you've got this sad attachment to what this game could have been, and every time you can rehash it, you're like, look at this shitty game. I'm so sad at this shitty game. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. And let's be honest, it was made by Square Enix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Square Enix is hit or miss, let's be honest. I'm a Final Fantasy fanboy till the end of days. I like Dragon Quest as well, but Final Fantasy Square Enix has some flops, and let's be honest, I think this was it. It's just a flop. We should move on, and I don't think War for Wakanda is gonna
to be more accurate here is it was developed by Crystal Dynamics, which has hit or misses games too, because they were involved with like the Tomb Raider revival, which did really well, but then they come out with the Avengers game, which did very terrible. But it's just like this game was hyped up, and then just fell flat, and this is just a broken record at this point. But it's just
Yeah.
sad, and maybe this will be the content that turns it around or not. I'm just having hopes for it, but because the game itself still looks phenomenal, it still looks great, it's still a great looking game, but it was always trying to be too much, and it all had a lot of glitches and a lot of copy and paste. But overall, the aesthetics of the game looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Bass. I agree with Spooky Crew here. Avengers is a dead game. And Laser Lord's right. It was an overhyped game that just, exactly as you said, was copy and pasted. And that's the problem. A lot of these games lately, you'll get a core concept and you're doing this for a licensing that you have or something. And you're just like, oh, shit, we gotta get the game out. It's overhyped. Oh, fuck, marketing fucked us again. And copy paste.
Yep.
That's the problem. And I think you'll like this because you're an Apple fanboy. Steve Jobs once said that when marketing runs the company is already dead. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the issue here. The game was run by marketing. Marketing sold it to us during the time where everyone's like, Marvel. Ugh.
Yeah.
They literally were they were like, this is gonna sell because everyone's into Marvel, and like, you know, that's what you get for being on a hype train.
Yeah, and it fell flat because it's super sad. Like,
yeah.
If they didn't learn the lesson, like when they first revealed the game and everybody was like really questioning how the heroes looked, because they looked nothing like the actors that we are so used to, been watching for 10 years, 10 plus years, that we know we have a vision of what these characters look like. And they release a game that looks nothing like any of the characters. And you're just like, is this even Avengers, or is this like someone like making a knockoff of Avengers? Like, that was the initial perception of the game when they first revealed it. And like, granted, I think it's because like they didn't want to pay for the lookalike of certain people and stuff like that. They would have to pay all those actors a certain amount of money and stuff like that. I get it.
That to me, I think, is the big issue. It's one of the reasons why DC is floundering all the time with their extended universe. DC fails because, look at, for example, CW has some really good shows that are doing well. They're honestly good shows. They make good records. They don't flop. But then they go and make a movie and they're like, okay, we've got the Flash, but it's not even the same guy or made to look like the same guy. We've got Batman. We're not even going to use a Batman we've ever used.
Right. This is the 10th different Batman we're going to use.
We've got another new Superman yet again. You're going to love it. All right? You're going to eat it up. It's perfect. You'll love it. And so, like, I think the issue at hand is you have to build, if you're going to build off a hype train, you have to have continuity. And the problem at hand is they're breaking continuity by saying, well, his name is Batman. It's going to be, you just got to accept it. His name's Thor. He doesn't look the same.
Doesn't sound the same, nothing. He has a hammer.
Unless you're a true, nerd for the stuff, like, you've got to accept the fact that it may not look the same, and that's the problem. People are like, I want this to be the game based on the movies, and it's not. So I think at this point, War for Wakanda is only just a cash grab to try and get off the Wakanda hype that everyone's so into. So I think, yeah, I agree. And so I agree with you, Spooky Crew, and the fact that they don't want to use his likeness to really build upon what people already like.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to sell when it looks like a knockoff of the game, like it looks like a generic version of the game.
So you either have to rely on the fact that you've got hype and nostalgia, Call of Duty, or you've got good quality gameplay, Wasteland 3, or like, for example, Wasteland 3's a good game. The content's great. Fallout 4. It succeeded because hype train. There's hype behind it. Fallout 76.
Trash.
It almost succeeded because of a hype train. Tons of people started to get in on it, and then they're like, wait, what did I buy? Crap. I bought crap. And that's the same thing that's happened here with Marvel Avengers. You bought into the hype train, and then you've lost the nostalgia or the familiarity that keeps people attached. You lose your attachment.
Exactly. Well, let's move on here. This one's a big topic for you. It's a game that I've actually never played, but Stardew Valley developer Concerned Ape is working on a new game. Were you a big fan of the original Stardew Valley, and are you excited
Yes.
for this new game that they're coming out?
So they said they're in work, so we won't hear anything for a while. But Stardew Valley is one of those indie games that kind of defined the years around when I was in college, for example. Stardew Valley was one of those games where we were in a rut for, I think, single-player games, Like, for example, we're getting the reiterations, like you have with Call of Duty. They constantly release new Call of Duties. Well, Harvest Moon is like the farming game. Rune Factory and Harvest Moon, they were the game if you ever wanted to play a farming simulator kind of game. Other than playing Farming Simulator itself, which isn't really... It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that kind of fantasy, visual novel, dating simulator, farming game, you played Harvest Moon. Well, the problem is Harvest Moon, they rode the hype train, and they literally just copy-paste content over and over again. And I think what's really cool about Stardew Valley is they took concepts from Rune Factory and then merged that, like, the idea behind combat and stuff like that with the idea for Harvest Moon, which is that at the core of the game, you are a farmer. The way you make money, farming. The way you every day you start your day in game by farming. So, like, the idea behind Stardew Valley was to go back to the roots of what people remember a Harvest Moon game to be, or a Rune Factory game to be, and by God, they fucking did it. I think Stardew Valley was probably one of the best. It was the best ode to a farm, like a dating sim farming game, Rune Factory, Harvest Moon style game, in a long time. I think they did a great job, and to find out they're making another new game, I'm only interested to see what genre they want to get into, because if they want to make a sequel to Stardew Valley or anything of that nature, we can only hope that this developer continues with the core concepts of, building a game around what the game should be, not nostalgia, not hype, not marketing. The game succeeded on merit and merit alone, and that's what games like. This is a success story, in my opinion. It went from Greenlight Gaming and Steam. It people bought it up. They went nuts for it, and it just continued to succeed, and it just branched from PC to console, and it's an indie developer.
Right.
Some dude just decided, I want to make a game that Harvest Moon or, these people cannot deliver. I'm going to do it. And he did. And that's what we need to see in gaming right now. We need to see developers building a game that isn't like, oh, I want to build on nostalgia. I want to build on, an IP that already exists. I want to build on I want to make an entirely new concept that blows your mind. No. Go to these concepts that work, that have always sold well, and just make a quality game. Care about the game. It's a game about a labor of love. They cared about the game. That you can see that from day one of playing that game.
Right. Yeah, so it seems like we can both agree that this is something to look forward to and be excited about. Yeah. So we'll definitely be following this as more news and more updates and stuff like that do come out. But we've got a couple more topics here before we finish out this week's episode. These actually next couple of topics that has a decent amount of content to go off of. Not this next one, but the last three specifically. But a AAA Nintendo Switch game has leaked. It's not like a brand new game or anything like that.
No, yeah.
It's Darksiders 3. It's coming to the Switch. It's completing the trilogy because the first two games are on there. Were you a Darksiders fan? I have actually personally never played any of them. They look cool.
Played Darksiders 1 and 2. They were actually really fun games for what they were. They're the classic sort of, they reminded me of Spyro in the style of gameplay. Like classic PS2 Spyro. You went around, you had objectives you had to do, and it was an adventure game, and you had combat, and you learned new moves, or you got new items. And honestly, this is one of those games that has succeeded from, has continued to move forward. I think it's part of a genre or a style of building a game that you don't really find as much anymore. It's that classic exploration game. Like, when we say open world nowadays, we just want to make an a wasteland of expanse. Right. You can run a mile in every direction, and we litter things here and there, and you can do stuff. Well, this is one of those games this is a sandbox game. Don't get me wrong. It's not a sandbox game, an open world game. You can go where you want to go and do what you want to do, but you have to go to certain zones to get things to open up other zones. And I honestly thought Darksiders was an awesome game. I played 1, I played 2, I never got to 3, but it still did well the last time I checked. I'm pretty sure it had, decent ratings. It wasn't like, game of the year, but it wasn't a bad game. It was a good game.
Right.
And I think, finding out that even Nintendo can't keep things under wrap nowadays is kind of funny to me.
Yep.
A Russian website actually leaked it, and people were like, "Oh my God, Darksiders 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch." I just thought it was an interesting article that I found that, AAA games are being leaked for the Nintendo Switch now, and I don't think they were done intentionally, because last time I checked, Nintendo isn't run out of Russia.
Right, exactly. It's crazy to think that Darksiders 3 originally came out in 2018, so it's a 3-year-old game. It's still hyped up. Everybody still wants to at least play this on the Switch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is an action adventure hack and slash game, so it's maybe a game I'll eventually check out. Maybe not on the Switch necessarily, but maybe I'll check out the trilogy on my either PC or my Xbox, because I'm always down to check out new games. But moving on here, we kind of touched on this a little bit here, but going to want to give everybody an update on the whole Activision Blizzard issue, per se, with the whole legality and the stuff that's going on at the workplace. The employees staged a walkout, which looks like it was successful, I would say, and it kind of really pissed off the higher-up peoples, because they were bringing bad PR, which was already bad to begin with, but it's sad to see that people have to go to these lengths for corporate America or corporate whoever has to starts to realize that, hey, these issues are going on. Hey, these issues are bad. Hey, can you please take care of them? It's sad that it gets to this point.
I think the other thing that really speaks a lot here is just the glorification of the sex dominant patriarchal style company. The problem in hand is, higher ups, most of the higher ups in Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, are men. And it just goes to show that, the 1950s still haven't left. Trying to hit on your secretary and have sex with her is still something they wildly do. And these guys, and it's not just Activision Blizzard. We've seen defamation things, we've seen defamatory remarks coming out about people that just meet up with Activision Blizzard executives. They rented the Bill Cosby suite, and you can look more about that and stuff, and how they wanted to have a giant party that led to a bunch of of just wild and crazy sex with people, and they were looking to just have sex with tons of women, and just there's nothing wrong with having if you want to have sex with a ton of people, if it's consensual, who cares? That's life. But the idea of using your power, your privilege, your advantage over people, it just goes, it speaks poorly of the world still, and it shows that, there are still so many issues wrong with our society now, that people are like, well, women's rights, and they mock it and make fun of it, but at the same time, these women are people in comments, literally comments on this that I've seen are like, some guy said, and not even in a sarcastic remark, he said, you should feel privileged that your higher up is, wants to have sex with you. And it's like, no.
It's crazy to think that some people really think like that.
Why is, because he's a CEO or an executive, why should I feel privileged that he wants to fuck me? That's just wrong. Right. You should feel good about the work you do. You should feel comfortable where you're working, it's saddening, to be honest. And talking more on this, the employees staged a walkout, and until this lawsuit is over, Activision Blizzard is actually being really shitty about WoW, for example. They're trying to their subs are actually tanking right now because people are canceling their subs, which honestly, the only reason I haven't canceled mine is I'm running a guild, and these people in my guild still wish to play the game because we enjoy the game, and that's fine. But the problem at hand is Blizzard doesn't want to work on the game anymore until this lawsuit's handled. So it almost feels like they're holding development of the game based on solely on trying to garner our support in their fight against the lawsuit. They say, well, if you side with us and this lawsuit gets, we can get rid of this lawsuit, then we'll continue to develop WoW. Otherwise, we're done developing WoW. There is no active development on World of Warcraft right now. The game may die. We may see the end of WoW finally this year or next. Who knows? Yeah. We may not get another update like 9.1. We're not going to get 9.2 probably for 6 months to a year if they decide to not develop until this lawsuit's over. And who knows, this lawsuit may thrash them and have a whole complete shakeup, and then the company may have internal struggles and they may not develop anything for a while and have to rely on Call of Duty.
As always.
I mean, Activision Blizzard was a merger, and they don't rely solely on Call of Duty, but it's a big part of their market. Right. That's their market now because they've merged. And Blizzard hasn't done anything. They haven't released a good game in years. Hell, even Shadowlands is kind of iffy at best. It's just another chore. Why am I in a chore, to get to be able to do... Cause you have to do the chore to actually be able to get to the point where you can even do the raid sometimes. Unless people are there to carry you through it. So, WoW is only trying to really become just it's the same thing as... What was, Farmville, I think it was, on Facebook?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a chore game, and that's the only way they're keeping people there is people have this subconscious idea that, oh shit, I have to do that. And for a while there, I was doing it, but I think Activision Blizzard right now, we're going to see the end of WoW. We may see the end of Blizzard as we know it now, and if that's the case, that's the case. I have no personal investment in them surviving or not. Right. They're a terrible company. They've always been. Look at when they we should have seen the writing on the wall. It's been written in blood on the bathroom wall for years now. But people are just oh, okay. The protests in Hong Kong. Right. One of the Chinese Hearthstone players supported he publicly supported the Chinese the Hong Kong protests. And they kicked him out of the tournament circuit. They said, because of the remarks you make, you're removed from the tournament circuit. You cannot compete.
Right. That was already signifying their stance, how bad of a people they are.
That goes to show that the only people Blizzard cares about, Activision Blizzard, are mobile gamers because they make money. China, because that's where their market is. And the executives, because those are the people that rake in the money.
Exactly.
So the issue at hand is Activision Blizzard. Honestly, I would feel better if they collapsed. It's a company that it's a company at this point. Call of Duty is kind of stale. Oh yeah, no, bold of me to assume, and I'm sorry. The reason I say care, I mean they'll develop content because that's how they make money. You have to develop content to make money. So when I say they care, I mean that's where their effort goes into, is the people, mobile gamers. That's the only people they care about. I'm not saying they actually are oh, I love mobile gamers. Those are the people I care about. PC gamers, they can go fuck their moms. I'm saying that they want to put their efforts into China. That is, Blizzard is for all intents and purposes a pro-China company, and that is where they stand. They've shown it by everything they've done, and to be honest, China is a male-dominated society that is all of... women's rights aren't really a thing in China.
And so another bad topic.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm calling it now. 2 years, WoW's probably dead. Diablo, probably not going to make it. Warcraft, the Warcraft series is done. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and if you guys want to talk more about this topic, hit us up if you want to join our Discord server as well. We can go more in depth into that. But we got to move on here. We got a couple more topics here before we close out this week's episode. Another issue that we kind of brought up a little bit ago was the global semiconductor shortage. It apparently is being extended to 2023. This is really bad news because we're seeing the impact from the game consoles to Ford even shutting down the production of their pickup truck. It's affecting every market in the world. And it's sad to see.
Yeah, it's sad to see, but it's indicative of the world, the industrialization. We're destroying the world as we know it, and then we go, well, we're going to run out of stuff, but we're not going to innovate enough. We're not going to find new solutions. We're not going to care about recycling very much, and then we're not going to care about health. And this, to be honest, this global semiconductor shortage is one of the few things I think is going to be a net good for humanity in the long run. Mm-hmm. It's going to show us that we need to figure out. We need to care about people's health. We need to care about people. We need to care about the environment and find sustainable solutions to continue moving forward, because tech as we know it isn't going to be able to continue moving forward if we don't find ways to keep it going. We're a world of waste right now. The human race is we throw out so much stuff, we pollute so much. We're getting rid of all these natural resources. We don't care about our people. We had a global pandemic, and the only people going to suffer really in the long run are us. And if the people don't stand up and make a difference, I think, just with gaming as well, if we just continue to buy, not Britney, I just thought about the Britney Spears song, but if we continue to buy, that, what's going to happen other than we're going to eventually run out, or we're going to have more shortages in the future. This is only the beginning.
Right. It seems as if more companies need to hop on board with the whole recycling program. Like Apple. Apple, for example, is huge on recycling. They will recycle any and all electronics. They will help you find a way to do it. They really go the lengths of trying to basically eliminate their carbon footprint, which is exciting to see. But it's just we need more of that. We can't just have one company here, one company there do it. We need to collectively, as humanity, come together and do that. Otherwise, we're going to keep having these shortages, and we might start having more shortages in other things.
Yeah, food shortages are not that far off with global warming, for example. We're going to see food shortages soon enough. So I think the issue at hand is the global semiconductor issue is actually quite scary, for one, because we're not going to be able to everything we do nowadays, is say for anything electronics nowadays almost always comes with some sort of semiconductor. Hell, your fridge has a semiconductor in it because of there's smart fridges out there.
Right.
There's smart toasters out there.
Smart everything.
Hell, my air purifier is a smart air purifier. I connect it to an app to my network, and it'll track and monitor the air for me, and I can control it and set schedules and stuff. If we want a world like this where we have convenience and stuff, we have to start taking into account the bottom line, the people. If we want to sustain our lifestyles for the next 50 years, we're going to have to figure this out, because this semiconductor issue is only the beginning.
Right, exactly. Which, moving on here to our last topic here, is in relevance here is some states in the United States have banned certain PCs due to the power consumption from them. This is crazy that we're getting to this point.
What they're doing is they're banning the sale of new PCs that aren't eco-friendly. But it turns out that was actually the same thing with the Green New Deal. People were reading too far into it, and it's not actually true. I saw another article today about it that they were like, this isn't actually what it means. We're not taking away your cows and stopping, air flight travel. We're saying electronic devices.
Gas-powered PC.
Our PCs are electronic devices, but we're not banning the sales of them. We're banning the manufacturing of things that that aren't good for the environment. Like if you're wasting too much energy, if you're not properly dealing with power consumption, then you can't have it. Like there are old devices that use way too much power and then just don't actually get anywhere on it. We want to make things more efficient, and the problem at hand is people don't care about efficiency when they can make it cheaply.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an issue that we're running into, because like this even like extends out to like the whole shutting down of like cryptocurrency farms that were being shut down, and basically the police were going in like, hey, you got to shut this down. You're consuming too much power. There's too much like shit going on here. Like that's enough. And it's just like the impacts that it's having. Like you don't see it in certain areas, but there's some areas that are like they have to turn the power off in certain areas so that other areas can have power and stuff like that. Like granted, we live in America where like we don't have that many like that big of an issue. But you got to think about these other worlds that aren't as advanced as we are per se.
Yeah.
That have to struggle with this even worse than we do.
Yeah, and not only that. Well, Texas, for example, because they privatized their power, for example. It completely privatized it and deregulated it. People die. And you know what? They lived in Texas. They voted those people in who deregulated that. You've got to, at this point. If the people aren't going to stand up and make a difference, then that's the issue here. And I think the writing on the wall here is, unless we make things, as I said before, more friendly towards the environment, we're only going to be digging ourselves further into this grave. And I think, the world of gaming, it's an escape. It's a world of escapism. It's where you can go do something else that isn't this fucked up mess we live in. But at the same time, if we don't fix the environment, it's only going to come after games next.
Exactly. Well, I think that's enough of our gaming news for the week. Let's hop into this week's deep freeze moment. I'm going to hit you with this question here. This is actually a question from you. What games defined a genre or were ahead of its time and like pushed the label? Go ahead.
So for me, Metal Gear Solid, I think, was one of those games that pushed the envelope. It did things that people were like, wait, you can do that? Like, back in the day, I'm sorry, some of our Zoomers here who may be watching, we used to have things where we saved our game files on these little things called memory cards. Okay? And Metal Gear Solid had a boss that told you, hey, I noticed you were playing Spyro, or you were playing this or that, and you're like, how the fuck did you know that? The game literally took things about you and it looked for ways to break the fourth wall to you. To made it feel real, like they were coming for you. Not, it's not like you're just playing a game. No, you are in the game now because I know you, and it looks at you past the screen, and you're like, oh, that's horrifying. And and that is all right.
You took mine. You took mine.
You son of a bitch. That's my next one.
Yeah.
Halo Combat Evolved for PC. That right there, as Spooky Crew said, wasn't the first FPS. Doom, things like that. Those were the first-person shooters. But Halo Combat Evolved, it did just that. It was Combat Evolved. It took shooter games to the next level. Quake did it once. You've got all these other games that brought shooters to a new world. But Halo Combat Evolved looked at things like Quake, Doom, and said, what if we do this? And Halo was that game like, oh, what if we had vehicles? What if we do, you're on foot, you're in tanks, you're flying, you've got rockets, snipers, you've got machine guns, submachine guns, you've got a pistol and a fist. You got a fist, baby, and a sword. It did it all, and it was like, this is combat. This is how you fight. And I think Halo Combat Evolved on the PC was one of those cool games because you could mod it too, and that was awesome. You could just like throw in a gun that shot confetti instead of a bullet. Halo Combat Evolved for the PC was one of those games to me that I still remember sitting behind my PC and playing Halo Combat Evolved, and I was like, wow, consoles could never do what that did. And I was like, this is amazing. and not only that, Master Chief Collection, you get just that. They bring stuff from Halo Combat Evolved that you couldn't do on a console. It said, here's what a PC can really do if we want a game in the future. And I think that was one of the coolest things to me. Mm-hmm. And another one, Crysis.
God
Crysis was one of...
We had the same list.
You can, hey, you take Crysis. You wanna say Crysis? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Crysis, man, was just one of those games that it literally pushed the console or PC, whatever you're playing, whatever rig you were on, was pushing it to its limits. A game was trying to implement ray tracing before ray tracing was a thing. The fidelity and the graphics were damn near real world graphics.
And one of the things is Crysis wasn't the first game that tried to do ray tracing. Don't get me wrong. For example, ray tracing is the concept of drawing real-world shadows and lighting based on
right,
where the light source is and what objects are between it. Well, the issue at hand is we had things like pencil shadows in, I believe, horror games on the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2.
That's probably the Silent Hill games, probably.
Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. They tried to do shadows based on lighting that they put into the world, so that what you were doing produced, made it look real. And don't get exactly, Laser. Crysis was one of those games where you could benchmark a PC. It said, this is the future of gaming. It was the future of gaming. So when you say, can it run Doom? The other question is, well then, can it run Crysis? I got a toaster to run Doom. But can you get this gaming PC to run Crysis? 10 years later, people are still like, my PC's on fire! How do I play Crysis? This is a 10-year-old game! And people were still unable to play it.
Right.
At full specs. It's one of those games that said, graphics are what matters for the future. Anytime you and me talk, Vic, you're like, this game looks beautiful. And that's your first remark. Your first thing you go for is the looks. Yep. And that's fine. That's not my first thing a lot of the times. Mine is gameplay. But yours is, it has to look good.
Yep.
And that's what Crysis said. Crysis said games have to look good.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about other things. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what it was. And I want to come back to Laser Lord's comment here. Super Mario 64. That game was ahead of its time. It did 3D. It was the first thing to really push 3D into a new world. So, for example, have you played Mario 64, Vic?
Of course. Bless me.
So, in Super Mario 64, have you ever noticed that Mario flickers sometimes?
Yeah.
That's actually intentional. What happens is when Mario gets too far away from the camera, so Mario gets all the way out here and he starts blinking and stuff, and you're like, why is he blinking? Is that a graphical issue? It's not. Actually, what's happening is they introduced low resolution models, low polygon count models, so that the CPU didn't have to work as hard. So if it was further away, you just lower the resolution a little bit, and it doesn't matter. You don't. You're not going to be able to tell what the fuck it is anyway from this far out. You're like, what am I looking at?
It looks like Mario.
Why do we need to render it in full if it's all the way out there?
Right.
You know what it is. You can assume what it is. The brain will tell you what it is. So it doesn't need to look good. So that brought in the idea of saving pushing games to the next level by, the technology isn't there. Let's make the game adapt to the technology and not lose anything. Another one for us here. Not just games, but consoles as well. The Dreamcast.
We had the exact same list. I'm just
there's a game on the Dreamcast that was way ahead of its time. The Dreamcast had a game called Shenmue. Shenmue actually was one of the first games to really push 3D models into the future. It said, okay, we don't polygons. Fuck polygons. Look at this. And the original Shenmue game looked crisp for a game made in 1999, I think. It looked like games still made in 2006 on the PS2. Or the PS3. It brought things to the future of gaming, I think. And one of the last ones, I think, is Witcher 3. not maybe ahead of its time, but defined a genre. Witcher 3 was one of those games that said, okay, first person, story-based games are dying. Look, we've got Elder Scrolls. It fills a niche. It does a thing. We've got God of War, but Witcher 3 was one of those games that said, okay, you want a game where all your decisions matter. You want a fluid combat system. You want good lore, and you want the story. If you don't want to look at fucking lore, the story's amazing without lore. You look at the lore, it only gets better. Side quests, every side quest wasn't just like, I have a cat in a tree, help! It was, no, I've got this, and this side quest will influence the main story quest. If you don't do it, the game completely changes. You can't get endings without doing side quests. Like, Witcher 3 was one of those games that said, everything you do matters.
Right.
So what about you, Vic? You got anything I didn't get?
Yeah, well, you took most of mine on my list, so I'm going to hit you with the two remaining that I got here.
All right, what do you got?
First off, I'm going to start off with a random one here. Phantasy Star Online. This is a game that I've actually never really played, but I did some research beforehand, but never realized that this is one of the first online, like, world online games. And it really pushed that limit. Like, this game came out in 2000, during a time where even the 360 wasn't even, or the original Xbox wasn't even out yet. So it was just like, Xbox Live wasn't a thing. Playing Halo Online wasn't a thing. Like, this was one of the first online games, and it really just pushed the limits to bring in everybody and provide like different classes and teaming up with other players. It was like more or less like World of Warcraft, but before World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
But my last one that I wanted to bring up is just the Forza series, whether it's Motorsport or Horizon. Like, that game damn near pushes the boundaries between like what's real and what's a video game. Like, looking at that game looks like I'm in real life, and they keep pushing the boundaries year after year, and it's only going to get better.
And I agree, and I also want to say Forza is one of those games that really told us what a racing game can be. Yeah, we had Need for Speed, and it was always fun, and it was always goofy, but Forza was like, you had to tune your car, or, it really mattered what you did. You literally you could learn the physics behind making racing cars by how you tuned your game and played. Right. Every little difference mattered, and they cared, and the cars drove like your choices meant something.
Right, and like with the whole new, the most recent games like Horizon 4 and Horizon 5 that's coming out in a couple of months here, they're pushing the limits even with the weather that dynamically changes and like has impacts on the environment. Like, if it starts to rain and there's puddles on the ground, you drive through that puddle, it's going to have an impact on your car versus like in Midnight Club or Need for Speed. If I had a puddle, if it was raining, it didn't fucking matter.
If it was raining, I still cut corners like I'm fucking He-Man in a car, like 90-degree turn, like, and it's raining. It could be hailing. You're just like straight through it. Don't matter. Hails everywhere. You can see just fine. Turn corners like they're you're going straight.
And that's so cool to see. Like, it helps you immerse into the game and like opens up different parts of the map. Like in Forza Horizon 4, like in the wintertime, it would freeze over the lake, and now you can access new races that can only be started on the lake, or like different houses that you can buy, and just different things that it would change the map. And I'm super excited for Forza Horizon 5 when it comes out in a couple months here, because like they have like 11 plus biomes where like now the weather's not just like, when the weather changes, it's not going to change just for the entire map. It's going to be different in each biome. Just because it's raining over here doesn't mean it's going to be raining over here.
Yeah,
like
just because it's raining in Middletown doesn't mean it's raining in Harrisburg.
Right, so that's like another realism thing. And like, yes, the graphics just keep getting better. Like, they had like 400 terabytes worth of information just from taking pictures of the sky. Like, the sky is going to be the most realistic sky that you could ever think about looking at in a video game. It's going to be like looking at the real thing. So like, they're taking it to the next level. They push it every time, and I'm super excited for that game to continue to push the racing genre, because it's something that has had a lot, like, not lackluster, but like, there's not a lot of racing games out there anymore. Like, when we grew up, we had Midnight Club, Burnout, Need for Speed, the early Forza games. Like, we had a lot of Dirt, we had Project Cars. Like, there was a lot of racing games. There's like none now. You got Forza and you got F1, and that's a different kind of racing game.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, and I think one of the last ones I think I want to mention here, I forgot it earlier. Uh, Far Cry is a series for me. I think that pushed the envelope. Like the original Far Cry game it was interesting. It was different. It was crazy. But I think what I want to get at mostly is Far Cry 2, for example. The game isn't the best, but it was good. And what it did was it opened up a new genre, that exploration first person shooter. It was like one of the first games that said, this is open world. Here's your world. Play.
Right.
Do whatever you want.
I guess we can't forget about another game too, but go ahead, finish up what you were about to say.
No, that's it.
Okay.
That to me, that was the open world. Yeah. Far Cry 2 is best Far Cry. No fight there. Don't get me wrong, Far Cry, the original one, was fun. That was just goofy and fun. That was fucked up, silly fun. Mm-hmm. I liked it. And then they were like, Far Cry 2 has nothing to do with Far Cry 1. But it's Far Cry. And I think Far Cry 2, after Far Cry 2, they were like, oh, we succeeded. We made a great game. We're not even going to modify it. And then Ubisoft is like, this is our formula for every game.
Yeah, from now on. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so it defined a genre, but it also is the crutch of Ubisoft. So I guess
Right. So I just want to end our deep freeze moment with just last one game here that we can't forget is the Mass Effect trilogy. Like that game pushed the limits of RPG games, like storytelling wise. Like your decisions that matter in game 1 affected game 3. I can't really name any other games off the top of my head that have that same kind of influence that carried over from game to game. Yeah, there are other games out there, but they were like it is the best RPG game to do that by far. And like with them remastering the trilogy now to make it even look better and whatnot, that's phenomenal. And it's like it's sad to see that they went from making that masterpiece to what we got after. Like getting Andromeda, like garbage. Like how did you go from 1, 2, and 3 to Andromeda and it looks like a completely different game and has no meaning to it and stuff like that. So it's really confusing. But I'm really excited for that.
I think what's really interesting is Mass Effect. It showed us, what RPGs can do. At the same time, Witcher came out. The original Witcher game came out the same year that Mass Effect did. Mm-hmm. And they only came out less than 30 days from each other. I think okay, Laser, that's actually a very good point. I'll get to that one next. But Mass Effect and like Witcher, those are the two games that said, people want this Japanese style of game where we talk about, like, visual novels are a thing in Japan. They're not really big here. But the storytelling you get, the choices you get in visual novels to make different changes and change how the story plays out. We were like, wait, what if we could do that in our games? And I think that to us, like The Witcher and Mass Effect, were those two games that said, whether you're in fantasy or in space or wherever, people want to play dating sims, for example. Everyone talks about who's best grill. Everyone talks about who's the hottest character, who they want to smash, who they want to kill, things like that. Marry, fuck, kill, who they're going to do it in a game. They'll talk about that, like Mass Effect. Or even Witcher. People are like, there are fist fights over who's best girl in Witcher. And I'm not even going to ask chat where, if I would, I'd turn on emote only chat here. Because, like, these games really defined building a fan base about choices. Yeah, see, and people, I think, yes, Mass Effect is Mass Effect and Witcher. Those two games coming out right when they did, 2007. That was the year to show us that RPGs, that's what people want. Because, like, you have Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls series. You can make choices, but it never changed your ending. Your ending was always the same. You always got to the last quest, and the same ending happened. But with this, you choose the ending. You literally shape how you want the end to be.
Right.
And then The Witcher and Witcher 2, for example, your choices from 1 to 2 to 3 carry over. So every choice you make influences and changes the next game. And I thought that was also ahead of its time. The idea that what I did in the first game, I want to continue into a whole new second game, and I want those choices to matter.
Right.
So
that was definitely exciting.
Yeah, and yeah, I want to also point out here for the people who are going to see this on YouTube afterwards, our chat said, for example, Baldur's Gate. That that is that is what a top-down that brought D&D and games like that to the forefront of people. It said, "No, this isn't just for nerds. This is for everyone." Baldur's Gate is a good game, and people were like, "Whoa, I guess you're right." I guess being a wizard or a barbarian or a paladin, these choices, being able to build a character that really was you is important. And then Microsoft Flight Simulator. That was the game that said, just a simple game of like flying a plane through the sky. People want to do that. So guess what? We have Truck Simulator, Farming Simulator, Job Simulator. We've got all these games that are just simulation games because people are like, I want to know what it's like.
Exactly. So nonetheless, there's been tons of games and consoles and concepts that push genres and just gaming in general, and I'm excited to see the future of gaming as well. But I think it's time to close out this week's episode. So you have any last comments or remarks before we close it out?
I just want to reach out to chat and say, hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I really love the back and forth, even in the deep freeze moment where we really hope the chat joins in. So please, come view us live at the Chill Zone podcast.
Yes, sir. So I definitely want to thank everybody that did show up to us live, and anybody who does check us out later on YouTube. Help us by continuing to share our content or even coming in live and joining in these conversations. It's great. Makes the conversation real and relatable and stuff like that. But just want to make sure these episodes are live every Sunday at 7 p.m., so come join us for sure. But Roger, where can we find you at?
My Twitch name is right below it. It's twitch.tv/lunatic_oblivion. Oblivion spelled with an A.
And you can check me out at Twitter at Mr. Never Chillin'_. Xbox is X Never Space Chillin'. If you want to game, party up, or whatever, hit me up. Facebook is Vic Brubacher. Questions, concerns, you want to come on the show, just come hit me up for sure. My personal Twitch is twitch.tv/Mr. Never Chillin'. Haven't really been streaming on that. I'm still trying to grow this channel here, so I've been streaming a lot there. So come check us out when we play Valorant or the Ascent or any new games when we want to check us out. But we definitely want to shout out everybody again. Thanks again. But until next time, peace.
Peace.